All right, so here's something that is worth pointing out with Zulu that I have come across with some users who are not getting results that they, what up, Joey? That they are happy with, or they're just having difficulty matching up with decks. And so what we're going to focus on today is gain staging. Okay, so the audio for this is not going to be fantastic. I apologize. I'm still working on getting a better solution to stream so that you can get the audio off of the DAW that I use. But for now, you at least get some visual ideas of what it really involves when you're first setting this up. So what I've got is a session pulled up, and I'm going to switch cameras, so hold on. Okay, so here's my, put this mic over here. Let's see if my little quadrupod thingy-bobby is going to cooperate. Okay, so can I zoom in on this or not? No. Okay, so hope y'all can see this okay, but if not, I'm gonna grab the camera and get it closer. Okay, so here's Zulu, still got the old school knobs on it. What we're gonna do is, these settings are relevant to what we're gonna see, but they're not recommended settings or anything like that. They're more along the lines of, let's just see for a second what we got here. So where are we at? We in TK mode? All right, we're in MX mode. All right, so what we got here is some signal level. All right, come on, focus, y'all. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go back to the body of this record. This is a project called the Jared Justice Project. And I'm just going to play a little bit of signal for y'all. What I want you to notice is these two windows here that are using GCLIP. GCLIP is not even going to really be engaged. It's just there to provide some visual stimulus for you to see stuff. So on the left here is the raw. So that's before reinsert here, which sends to Zulu. And on the right is after. Okay? So the trick with this is let me zoom out a little bit. Come on, computer. All right. The trick with this is I'm going to take a section of the record that has some drums. It's basically like the full scale of the record, right? So the idea with this is one of the things you can do with Zulu. Now, I don't know necessarily how people do this in every single DAW known to mankind, but this is just worth pointing out, okay? So right now, I've got Zulu pretty much set at unity in terms of the send and receive. So like I haven't made up any gain. There's nothing in the path. It's just converters out into Zulu and back in, right? So what I like to do to really find the sweet spot for a record when I'm mixing is this. A lot of people are doing like, they're doing this kind of thing. Like they're sending signal, right? And so like watch this. So like they do this, right? They send signal in, okay, right, and you can see that there's an obvious mismatch in levels between the two, right? So you can, like, this is at -6 and that's at like -18, around there, -12 peaking. Okay, so one of the things I'm seeing people do with Zulu is they'll go do this. They'll say, hey, I need to use the enhance knob like volume to get my signal back up to level because the loss is too much and I'm worried about SNR. And the trick is, gain staging is your friend, right? With tape, if you didn't send a hot enough signal to tape, come on tripod, okay? If you didn't send a hot enough signal to tape, you had noise, okay? So the answer isn't always just making up the gain, it's what you, okay? And using enhance to make up signal level is fine. I mean, you can do this all day. I'm going to put this all the way up. lot closer, right? But the problem is that you've altered the way it sounds too, away from maybe what you need more of. So enhance isn't always the answer to volume. Volume is the answer to volume, right? This is what I do. Even with a real deck, I do this. Ask anybody. I turn the return down. You can do this with limiting, compression, saturation plugins, you name it. I turn the volume down, the return volume down, and then I do this. I'm going to listen for distortion based on the send level. Okay? It doesn't really sound distorted right now. I'm going to keep turning it up until I hear distortion. I want it to really distort. Let me get this to a full-scale section of the record, though. This is just bass, so you know tape loves bass. So let me find some drums. All right, so we hear... Turn snap back on. Snap that. All right, so... Okay, so there's the drum. So we're peaking at like negative 0.01 or whatever, right? And we're in the red already. And people are like, oh no, it's red. So what? Watch this. I want to make it distort. That's distorted, right? Well, let's back it off until we don't hear distortion. Oh snap, we're in the red. I hear distortion. Oh snap, we're in the red. I don't hear distortion now. Look where I'm hitting this thing at. +7. Right? Now watch this. Well, we don't have the level, and maybe it's a little juicy, right? I'm just going to add in one click of enhance. Right now we're in MX mode, okay? So I'm going to turn this up. That sounds good. You're looking at these lights like, oh no, I've broken the law. What up, Kenesha? I've broken the law. I can't do this anymore. I've violated the laws of digital converters. Guess what? Your converters are rated +24. I'm at +7 on peaks. I'm not +7 on program all the time, right? So what I want you to pay attention to is I just gain staged into this thing until the formula and setting that I had sounded best. Okay? So now we're going to show what that does to your waveform. Okay, so I'm going to put this stuff on camera. Right? I'm going to move this over a little bit. Come on, Zulu. Do we still have signal on both channels? Do we? Alright, so watch this. So this is left on the left side on this one, right, is the raw. Watch what happens on the right. Look at the difference. Look at that. Now, of course, there's a level difference, okay? Of course there's a level difference. That's the whole point. All I'm going to do now is just make up some gain. So what I'm going to do is pull back up, I'm going to pull up my chain. I'm going to minimize this down here. Go back up. Me and my trackball are having a fight right now, excuse me. Okay, so this is before and after. So left is over here, this is before, and then here's after. Okay? So I just want you to pay very close attention. Let me pull this over here. Now you can see them side by side. I'm going to start making up some gain so that after is closer to before. So check this out. The RMS levels of these is very similar, and yet if I tried to match them peak to peak, it'd be way louder a process than it would be before. See, if I did this, that's pretty cray-cray in volume. Not necessarily the fairest of comparison either, right? So what does each of these formulas look like? Well, here's the Studer deck. We're in MX mode, so not the most high fidelity setting, but it's worth watching what it does in MX mode because this is one of my favorite modes to work in for mixing. Check this out. Well, check out something. Here we go. I'm going to start by lowering headroom. So here's Pro. This is high right now, so this is high. Okay. This is Pro. Headroom on the Studer. Here's low headroom on the Studer. That's pretty distorted, but it's a cool effect. Watch this. Watch if I just soloed the drums. All right. Look at the drums. Look at the difference in dynamics. Some volume up. So even though it sounds crazy, you know, and some people may prefer this instead, a cleaner hit. So look at the change in dynamics. That's pretty interesting, right? Look at that. Everything is so together. I got no compressor on anything, man. All I got is Zulu. Okay? So I'm going to show you now what happens when I start turning enhance up, and this is where you have to be careful with it because you lose tone if you like the darker sound. So watch this. One click. Hey Matt, just wanted to let you know, love the interview, everything came out great. Check this out, on the left, raw, on the right, Zulu. enhance. One more click. Starting to peak louder than the source. 12 o'clock on enhance. So that's what you get on the highest headroom with enhance, is like it's already kind of open to begin with, but I'm going to turn enhance all the way back down and turn headroom to the lowest on the Studer. Watch this. So you should get pretty, yeah. Coming up. So now we're going to add enhance to this sound, which is way rounder, way more saturated and driven. So watch this. Look at that change. A lot happens when the enhanced circuit kicks in. But here's the thing that's cool. Look at the RMS level. This is still in there, even though you just added enhance. Ah, look at the secret emerges. By the way, one more time, as I've explained at the beginning of this video, this is featured on the Jared Justice album. Is it Into the Storm? Is that what it's called, Jared? Jared's band is pretty phenomenal. It's comprised of some pretty serious players in the game in the local music scene here in upstate New York and Syracuse, to be precise. And everybody on this album has thrown down some serious work. These drums were played by Kenyatta King that I'm manipulating right now, and he recorded his parts here at Narrative Audio, which is in the basement of Believers Chapel City in Syracuse, New York. But check out this sound. So this is where we have one click of enhance. I'm going to keep increasing it. One more click. Each of these behaviors is dependent on what machine you're using. So if we go to like the Japanese deck, it's still going to sound very different. Going to lower the headroom. That's a really soft drum sound, by the way. I like that a lot. Listen to this stuff. This is the Pro Deck on media on Pro Headroom. This is so soft, so pillowy, man. It's like so Tascam TIAC right now. Add in one click of enhance and you get Right? We'll even try the low deck. Just Another Road. Alright, there was a tornado on the album cover. That's why I thought it was Into the Storm. I'm sorry, Jared. There's a tornado on there. And just like the album cover, we are not in Kansas anymore because we're using Zulu. So, let's hear the low deck. a crunch to it, right? So I'm going to put it on Pro Headroom on the low deck. Woohoo! Listen to that. It's like somebody's ripped the attack out of the drums, and all you're left with is like the chutzpah of the drums, right? So here's low headroom on the low deck in MX mode. Ah! Give it to me, baby. Great place for this is parallel on something, but some enhance brings it way back, so look at the top and bottom of the waveform. Both sides of the wave are getting kavashed. But it still sounds like drums, man. More enhance. Now these are just a couple of things that happen. So let's go back to like where you'd be mixing a record, right? So one of the other things that's really cool is I want you to see the difference in gain and what that does. See what happens when you kind of underdrive it? All you really do is kind of feed Zulu sound that doesn't really it's only really getting like one sort of singular result, which is for the most part similar to what you send to it, and that's the whole point, right? Like that is the coefficient of tape saturation and compression, is that it has a place you need to park it for you to get the sound you want, you know. So that's interesting in and of itself, that, you know, a gain coefficient is part of all analog processes that incur harmonics. If you don't drive stuff the right way, you ain't gonna hear it the right way. So again, one of the things I want to show y'all is, let me just get this back to +7, right? So watch this. So bias, right? A lot of people kind of don't know what to do with bias. They're like, oh, I'm just going to turn it all the way down, or turn it to like, you know, 12 o'clock or something like that. My tripod's on top of my Zulu right now, so you got to forgive me, but so it can get soft. And it plays with the bass. You know, the low end changes around when you do this. See, I got it there. And that's okay, you know. It's got a really cool effect to that is completely usable. I mean, I can just gain this back up, right? And even if you don't drive it hot, you know, you can. That's got like a very unchanged kind of thing to it, right? Well, here's the trick. At the other end of bias, right, is this bypass. Well, let's take a look at what bypass does on bias. Okay? So it's a slight thing that's there's a slight thing that's going to happen, but it is interesting. Check it out. I'm going to turn bias off now while this is playing. You see that? There's extra harmonic energy that is turning into peak information by turning bias off. Here, I'll make this waveform a little louder so you can see it better. But I'm going to turn bias off. Turn it back off. Turn it back on, I mean. There's a slight amount of peak information that's allowed through that contains more than just high energy. It also deals with the compression coefficient of Zulu. So in a way, when you turn bias off, you're kind of lifting out some of the compression and letting back in even more detail. Same thing with turning up enhance, but a totally different part of the circuit, right? So what's the other thing that we could do? Well, let's look at bypassing the deck. You got this spot right here where there's no deck. People aren't really playing with that. I've noticed a lot of people have not bypassed their decks. Let's see what happens. I don't spend enough time doing this, but I was with Todd a couple of weeks back, and we were just like, dude, let's play with this more. And it's got a really cool thing to it. So let's take a look at it. So we're just gonna get this down. I'm gonna drive it like I do. I'm going to turn the deck off now. Turn it back on now. Deck off. Deck on. Changes in peak information, changes in content, sonic changes. Another useful tool, right? Here's what's cool about turning off the deck. I believe enhance still works. Let's try this. Deck's off. Ah, that sounds cool. More enhance. So enhance works with no deck, because enhance and the deck are not connected to each other completely. They coexist. Well, if you turn the deck off, enhance is still going to work. It's passive, it's unbuffered, it's not tethered. Cool stuff waiting to happen, right? Let me check this other thing. What happens here? Now here's something that's really fun. Bias still works with no deck. Didn't know that, did you? So you can play with bias and enhance like push-pull circuitry with a pull tech while you play with your sounds with no tape deck engaged. Check this out. That's cool. Watch this. I got bias off, enhance is on, deck is off. All of these things are still working even though there's no tape circuit in right now. Isn't that fun? I figured you'd like that. Let me try something else. Let me see if this works or not. See if we're going to fail miserably. What other secrets lie in this box? So this is cool. I guess I just proved something. This still works too. For some reason, I've always been under the assumption that headroom is bypassed when the deck is bypassed. But it's not. There's a mid-range shifting happening here that's kind of cool. So, Easter egg! I love it. Okay, so even when you turn off the tape deck, all 4 of the controls on top of Zulu still work. But their sound shifts around a bit because you've, turned off, per se, one whole segment of the circuit. So that's cool. All right, well, let's go over this again. Let's recap. Okay. I'm going to put this back into like a common mixing formula, the Studer, or the Swiss, whatever you want to call it, which is the, the high deck, the no trademark infringement involved. The Swiss deck, right, for mixing. I'm going to turn off solo. Don't y'all wish you had this in Pro Tools? And that too. That's fun. Yeah, we cut bass with Zulu on this record too, along with a couple of other things. And what we're going to do is set Zulu for the record, right? Now, mind you, there are some caveats to this because you kind of have to mix into it too. It's not like you can just throw it on a record and get just some result that's going to always be magic. Like, it may work, but it's just like tape. Like, you got to hit it in the sweet spot for the source material. It's not just a set it and forget it kind of thing unless you have it there the whole time to monitor to. Then you can do whatever you want. But what I'm going to do is turn the output down again, like I said before, and I'm going to listen for what I think is best for the record. So I'm just going to push play. That's distorted. So, as you can see, one could get a less affected result if you just drive it a little softer, but then you kind of lose some energy too. Because I mean, I could have done this instead. I could have, 12'd it, kind of dimed it on this side and. Which sounds really good too, right? But the record needs some mojo. Sometimes you do stuff like this. You say, well, I'll sacrifice 6 dB of gain on the front, on the back end, and put 2 on the front. But as you can see, when you play around with the gain, the core values of the waveform change up a bunch. And so that's where it becomes a matter of what are you trying to get out of the process, if that makes any sense. So what I like to do is just, kind of like it's an old school thing for certain, but what I like to do is just, I like to pull it down, give it some gain. Now, Joey, that's a very interesting question. GCLIP is a VST-based program. However, there are a lot of plugins per se that have waveform display if you'd like to watch the waveform. I mean, this is really for people that need to get some kind of idea of what kind of sculpting is going on while still getting a more natural artifact out of Zulu. But all I did was, I'm using RIA insert. So that's why I'm able to kind of do this. But if you were in Pro Tools, I think you would just use a gain plugin before and a gain plugin after your sends. And if there's a way for you to keep both windows open side by side, I would just pull down the return in Pro Tools, or you don't even need a return plugin after Pro Tools, after the loop back for your Lilo or whatever you've got. You just use a gain plugin in front, and turn down the fader in Pro Tools, which